Yo, what's good? It's Mastermind MMA, and this video is going to be my stylistic breakdown on Ben Askren versus Jorge Masvidal. Like, on some real shit, I knew this shit was booked. I knew this shit was happening. And I remember I was talking about it in, like, one of my recent videos, and I was just, it got brought up, and I was talking to someone in the comments about it, and I was like, yo, when is this fight? Like, and they're like, oh, I don't even know. Like, is this shit even booked? I'm like, yeah, no, I know it's booked. I don't know when it is. But, like, they haven't been doing a good job of driving that this shit's happening, like, this soon. But, like, I kind of figured because, like, I saw a lot of the Ben Askren, like, ESPN pieces and shit like that. So I'm like, oh, is this shit happening on the John Jones card? I looked it up. I'm like, this shit's happening on the John Jones card. Let's go. So, all right, man. I'm just going to get right into it. So, Jorge Masvidal versus Ben Askren. Now, we know exactly what Ben Askren's game plan is. And this is one of the things where we know what someone's game plan is, what they're a specialist in, their specialty is, and how someone's going to deal with their specialty. And this is where you have someone that's as well-rounded as Jorge Masvidal, and he's one of the most underrated in the sense of how people don't view him as being as elite of a mixed martial artist in the term of mixed martial arts, that they don't give him the credit he's due. Because on some real shit, man, Jorge Masvidal had fucking Damian Maia on his back. This is like the Damian Maia where Carlos Condit is coming off of the Carlos Condit Robbie Lawler fight, bro. Like, on some of that shit. Like, it wasn't like exactly that time, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, Carlos was pretty fresh off that. It wasn't that long ago when he fought Maia. And then when Maia just did, like, a motherfucking anaconda, not the choke, but, like, he literally was like the creature at anaconda art. Like, he just fucking just, or a boa constrictor. Like, literally. He just went in there, slithered over, did what he had to do, and had Carlos tapping. And I was like, holy fucking shit. And, you know, Damian Maia is known to, when he has you in certain positions, there's only certain people that can not get killed in that position. Because usually once Damian Maia's on the floor, it's one of those things where it's like, you went to the quicksand. Now you're just gonna sink for the most part. And Jorge Masvidal had him in. Jorge Masvidal was in the quicksand, neck deep to his nostrils, but he was still breathing. And honestly, man, I feel like the way when you saw Jorge Masvidal on, you saw him on two instances in growth situations where it happened to be in a lineal timeline, where he fought Stephen Thompson, which is a stand-up specialist, a karate specialist, kickboxing specialist, right? He didn't know how to get in on, he couldn't figure out really how to get in on the inside, right? He tried to use that kind of almost Nate Diaz, like towards the end where he found success in that fight was when he had just the hot, super high Nate Diaz type guard, walking him down, eating the shots on the guard, and then just walking in, getting like almost fucking head to head and just firing your shots off. And in boxing, they call it the Mexican style. It's how Floyd fought Conor in the latter rounds when he was taking him out. And that's exactly what Jorge Masvidal found success in the Stephen Thompson fight, but Stephen Thompson dropped him, and Stephen Thompson really just kept him away for the most part, kept the distance, was really having Jorge like more really cerebral and shut down, because he's instead of just being in the moment and just getting shit off when you can and just saying like fuck it and just like sending it. He was more in a sense of, how do I get in? How do I get off this combination we've been working on? How do I manage this distance? He's keeping me back. And then when he kind of went into a fuck it situation where he's like, you know, I'm just going to get a high guard. I'm just going to, if a shot gets in, it gets in. But at this point, I got nothing else left to lose, because I'm going to lose this fight if I don't do something. And he's like, I'm pretty much losing this fight. I have to find a way to win this. And honestly, right after that, in his next fight, not really right after that because he took a little bit of break, but he had a layoff and he was back, and it was against Darren Till. And in the first 10 seconds, bro, he eats that clean left, and you're like, oh shit, Till's about to be fucking back at it, you know? It's gonna be Till Usman next, you know? And then fucking Jorge does that crazy shit Jorge did, and then you're like, holy shit. Now, when you look, I know MMA math isn't a thing, and I'm not doing MMA math, but you look at Darren Till stylistically, and you look at Stephen Thompson stylistically, and you look at their bout, and you look at their capability and their display, their mental and high level of their fight IQ, and the chess match that they had, where it was really just like super like tuned into a frequency where you're really playing more of a game instead of punches, and instead of punches and kicks, you're playing like the foot placement game, having the foot on the outside, the feint, where your hands are. Like if it's down to your hips, or like if you have it like far out to your left, not up to your face, but like kind of far out reach. You know how Darren Till like does that reach thing, and like fucking like that kind of like almost like a ballet sway when he's like coming out with his hands, and fucking Wonder Boy with like the way he bounces, where he has his getting like threatening that front leg side kick. He just keeps it fucking like bouncing like almost like a lawnmower motor. Where it's like brrr, and he just has that shit running, like that shit could just pop off at any time. And it's more of the game of what am I gonna do as opposed to what I'm doing in the fight, really. And when you're playing that game, you're really supposed to play that game in conjunction of what am I gonna do with what I'm doing. But when you have two people that are on that same page, where they are none of them are gonna give. So to draw another example, it's like, look at Dominic Cruz versus Cody Garbrandt, right? Where Cody Garbrandt had, shout out my guy Dominic Cruz, by the way, gotta do that shit now, you know what I mean? So fucking when you look at Dominic Cruz versus Cody Garbrandt, where the way Cody fought and had success, and ultimately when he did the polar opposite is what led to, I don't want to say his demise, but his fall from grace, I'll say. And it was, he played the game of, he's going to be on the outside. He's going to be calling you in. He's going to be pulling you in. He's going to be cutting angles. He's going to be countering off of your offense. And he's based off of pretty much instinct and like, of course, like film study and stuff like that. But I feel like in that point, when you're just tuned into the counter punch game and the pull game, you're more just really like tuned into reacting instead of it, like it's almost like when you're in defensive mode, you're just tuned in waiting for something to happen so you could get out the way, you could dodge it, but you're tuned in, and then just turn that knob up like 5 more notches where you're going to take it to the next step, and you're tuned into, all right, once I cut to this, how am I going to get them and get off my shit? So what Cody really did was, I'm going to pull you in and keep pulling you in. And Dom knows that when you're being the one that's pushing, and you're being, not only are you pushing, but you're pushing as you're pushing into what your opponent is pulling you into. Excuse me. When you're pushing into what your opponent is pulling you into, that's when you get caught with shit, and that's when you're putting yourself at the most risk. Even when you look at just distance and distance management, and when you're on the end, even if you're trying to be at distance, at range, and just trying to establish a range where you can step out, like just pop a jab and step out, like slide out. Even when you pop that jab, at the point where you're trying to make contact, you're on the inside. So once you're on the inside, you're always at risk at being hit. And when Dom kept pulling that push while Cody was pulling him, that's what led to him getting clipped up and then just standing in the pocket, trading hooks in the pocket, really just making it like a tough fight. Because you're like, all right, you know what? Like in those situations, he's like, I'm gonna put us in a 50-50 situations. Because you keep pulling and running from me. Not in like the sense of running, but you keep like when you're chasing, it's like cat mouse game. When you're being the mouse and I have you backed up against the wall, I'm going to try, not literally in the fight sense, but in a situational sense, that I'm going to, even though it's like we both got a gun pulled out on each other, I'm just going to pull the trigger, hope I hit you first. It's literally what it is when you have it in that situation. And what Dom could have did, and what Dom usually does is, you know what, I pull that pull game. I see he's pulling the pull game, so I'm pulling the push game. It's not working for me. I'm gonna put the pull game. Once Dom pulls the pull game, and he's like, you know what, I'm not gonna be the cat. I'm gonna be the mouse, and try to make Cody the cat. But Cody's like, nah, I'm having success being the mouse. You have two mice, and once you have two mice, that's where you're tuned into the frequency of the Stephen Thompson Darren Till fight, or the Stephen Thompson Rory McDonald type of fight. You know what I mean? So you have both people kind of being on the outside, not really being tentative, but it really is like in hindsight, tenacity. I don't even know tenacity would be the past tense of tentative in that form. But anyway, fucking just being tentative. It's just really that like like when someone gets in your face and flinches and hoping like pretend gets all in your face, like pretends they're gonna like hit you, and then like they want you to flinch. That's literally what the game is, like that feint game, and along with all the other things. But when you look at how Jorge Masvidal was put in a situation where he was the cat and he was the cat in the mouse game chasing, but he was getting fucked up. Like Jerry was fucking Tom up. And when he was like, you know what, fuck this, I'm finally gonna get Jerry. I'm gonna grab that motherfucker, have him in like just straight ring in his neck, and then I'm just gonna snap that shit. Like Tom found a way to catch Jerry with the Darren Till fight when Jorge fought Darren Till. And when you see that kind of ability to click like that and be like, all right, this was the trouble I had in the Stephen Thompson fight. And the fact that he had that trouble, and even in the fight, he showed, all right, somewhat a path to where he was having success. And an adjustment, keyword adjustment, that in-fight adjustment that he made to have success. Not only did he make that adjustment in a whole matchup, fight IQ, cerebral, intellectual way, he really made a real in fight instinctual adjustment with Darren Till when he got dropped. And because that puts you in a situation where now you're gonna have, once you hurt someone, it's gonna be a very strong push game, and there's really gonna be walking you down, and you gotta know how to handle that. You know what I mean? And because it's not only that, like, it takes you out of the situation where you were ready for kind of in the octagon cutting angles, center of the octagon cutting angle, you know what I mean? And like dictating range, stepping on the outside, feigning takedowns, doing all that, to where you're in a situation where your back is up against the fence and you're like, fuck, like I just can't get clipped up. And you remember at the end of the first round where Darren Till started landing some good shots, and you're like, oh shit, this guy established his range and he's getting shit off. And Masvidal made that adjustment and just and just like put two in his dome piece and put him out in front of his girl. You remember that girl that just had her fucking jaw to the floor, like, you know, in the cartoons where like what was that one fucking cartoon where that wolf sees that one fine ass bitch and he's like, "Awooga," and his fucking eyes pop out and his like jaw drops to his floor. You saw his girl's jaw drop to the floor like in that animated ass way when he got knocked out, and like it was fucking wild. And you're like, holy shit. And then Masvidal does the whole 3-piece Minnesota shit after that, and it's just like, It's just and it's organic. It's Masvidal being Masvidal. So not only do you have him making an adjustment to the game and doing all that, but you have him organically just having more marketability to him because that got a lot of clicks, that got a lot of plays, it became a thing. The 3-piece in a soda. You know what I mean? So especially with the whole WME IMG era, and just always in the UFC, it's always gotten you more of a push when you have more of a fan base behind you, or even buzz. You know what I mean? As long as you can generate click, I'm gonna tell you what my guy Chael P told me. As long as you generate clicks, you generate money, and it's all about getting PAID. And you could go watch my Chael interview just because I want to plug that shit because I actually have a Chael interview because that shit's so fucking dope. And then yeah, dude, it's fucking like, you just have everything. He's got like a lot going for him. Like how Darren Till had a lot. He still does, but like when you have that, when you're riding that wave, when you have that momentum going for you, you could really ride that shit to the fucking top and just like see how long you keep going. And that's literally how this game is. It's not like we have everyone that makes it to the top. It's like, bro, once you make it to the top, you gotta like see how long you can stay there because it's one spot. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not boxing, bro. You don't have the WBO, IBO, IBF, WBC, ABC, FGK. You know, like you don't have all these people with. That you have all these people with championship caliber ability, but you don't have all these people with championship validation to monetize off of. And that's it's prize fighting. It's literally the first part of what the thing is. You fight for money. And it really should be based on your ability to fight, because you're like, all right, well, I'm fighting for money, so it should be the gauge and the scale should be on my ability to fight. But then it's not. It's the other, like, another part that it is sports entertainment. So then the entertainment aspect of it is like, well, you're a good athlete and like a good fighter in the sports department side of it, but like the entertainment side, you got this and the ratings are this and da 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 da. When we put this, you only generate this amount of money, da da da. And like the whole business side of shit just fuck shit up, and it's literally a monopoly in the sense of almost a dictatorship in that the way the business is set up for you. You know what I mean? It's like, this is what it is. And if you don't like it, what the fuck you gonna do about it? Like, you know, it's like almost like doing shit with the mob, or, you know, like they're just gonna take they're gonna give you what they want you to get. And unless you could like get your own little clique up, get your own crew up and get some leverage and demand shit and be like, or we go to war or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's really how you do that is getting your following up, and as well as putting good performances, and those also play hand in hand. You know what I mean? Especially in the ESPN era now that we're in, it's like a lot of these big performances get a lot more exposure, consistently. So it's a lot of people could have these crazy, like, imagine the Pettis Showtime kick in this fucking era. Imagine that, bro. Like, you're right. Like the Raymond Daniels kick in Bellator. I mean, the punch. That fucking crazy 720 punch or whatever it was. That shit went pretty viral. But imagine if that happened on like a highly rated, like a highly viewed ESPN UFC card, you know what I mean? And then SportsCenter runs it, and then like #1 trending on YouTube, and just gets all this fucking exposure. And the person that has a lot to run with. And Masvidal can kind of really look at when Lawler fought Ben Askren and he slammed Ben on his fucking head, and like just like minus the controversy, just that moment and like that, oh shit, like what the fuck's going on? And you know, like that was like, imagine if that was on the McGregor Khabib card. I believe that was on the Jones Gustafson 2 card. Oh no, was that on Jones? I think that was Jones Gus 2. Or no, Jones Smith? No. What card was that fucking on? I know that was the same night that Cody Garbrandt fought Pedro Munez on. I don't remember what was the main event in that. But anyway, yeah, just imagine if that had more exposure. And with Ben Askren is really filling the shoes that Chael Sonnen left in a very organically Chael way. And you have Colby Covington, who's running with the Chael Sonnen blueprint in a very micro way. You know what I mean? He's just got one aspect of it, and he's just running with it. Like it's very one dimensional of the blueprint of I'm just gonna go just like shit on like just like the whole bad guy aspect. Like I'm just gonna shit on Brazil, call it a dump. Like Brazil's a bunch of filthy animals, and Chael's was, oh, I don't know if Brazil had internet there, or like that whole shit. You know what I mean? So it was really taking that aspect of it, but Ben is more of a overall similar persona and personality to Chael Sonnen. It's very parallel. And it's very similar. It's very, and even them together to have good chemistry, it's very relatable to each other. And I feel like it's Ben has his own take on it, but it's like his organic take. It's Ben being Ben. And I feel like it's because Ben and Chael grew up in like similar type areas, and it's just how it is out there. You know what I mean? And like the type of people it breeds. But on a person level, like a perception level, they seem like a very similar way. And the way they talk is Ben is more like a little more matter of factly about things, like kind of just like speaking from like a place where it's kind of more demeaning. You know what I mean? Like people are like less intelligent than him. Like and like like trying to give like a breakdown like of trying to be like more on the analytical side of things of situations, like instead of being like, yeah, fuck Usman in the back, he's a bitch, he didn't do anything, came up to me, he didn't do nothing. He was just like, oh, you know, I was in the back, man, you know, if we want to fight, like we get paid to do it. I was just saying, are we gonna sit together? And he got a lot bent out of shape about it. I didn't get it. And like, but that's him still playing into feeding into a beef and negativity with Usman. So he has more spicy fun things than that, but that was more of like an example of like the analytical side of things, but like the analytical side that he displays. But just in the cage wise and fighting wise for Ben, realistically on this caliber, the only thing we have to go off of is that Robbie Lawler fight, right? And well, Ben says that they trained together before, and he beat Jorge Masvidal wrestling. But at the end of the day, dude, that's wrestling, and that's practice, and that's pure wrestling practice. That you facing someone in your specialty only, and you're a specialist in it. Like, so I mean, when Jorge gets those hands going, bro, and honestly, like, Colby's his training partner, so he's gonna really be very comfortable with getting those punches off on the inside, like on Ben coming in, like shooting in on him, like shooting the uppercuts and even a flying knee. You know what I mean? And he's gonna be good at in close quarters, in clinches, and the breaks from clinches, getting off hard shots, or even in the clinch. Imagine, just as an example, Cormier Stipe, and or just on the breaks from clinches, he's gonna get off some good shots, I feel like. And I'm talking about Masvidal. And I feel like Masvidal is just going to be like fairly well prepared to do what Ben has. But with Ben is very smothering, and Ben is is relentless in getting to in bettering position, and just because he's a specialist like that and he's a specialist on the ground when it comes to wrestling, it's like he's gonna systematically have a mastery of systems of control, like someone like Khabib, where you look at how Khabib controls someone when their back is up against the fence, but they're on the ground, they're on their ass. The way he gets his hooks in on their calves, like their lower legs, and he just flattens them out and makes sure. And he always has wrist control, so they can't post up and build. And he's raining shots down, so he's pretty much got their legs covered with his legs. Got one arm preventing them from building up and doing and keeping them to where he wants them. And then he has one hand free. His opponent has one hand free. And he starts firing shots off. They're not in a position where they could generate any force. Even if they wanted to fire shots off, it's going to be pitter-patter. But he has all the space to generate meaningful shots. And what are you going to do? Are you going to try and pitter-patter back and while you're getting just eating shots? Or are you going to use your one hand to just try and block those shots that are coming in? So then you have them just stuck. And with Khabib, he's got the mastery of ground and pound, where he's going to have those shots be significant and start systematically breaking down his opponent with shots, and then using that to better positions and get to mount and stuff like that. But with Ben, I feel like he's going to have those systems of mastery and control, but I don't know what he could really do with that control that Masvidal is not going to be prepared for, because Masvidal had Maia on his back. Damian Maia, dude, he did not, like, he had Damian Maia backpacking him and eating it sub, bro. Like, I don't see Ben getting a submission on the ground. I will be very impressed if he does, but I just stylistically, matchup wise, I don't see it because of how strong Jorge is defensively on the ground. Like his defensive jiu-jitsu is on a super fucking high level. And even his grappling match against Pettis, dude, Pettis was throwing like a lot of good shit, a lot of flashy shit, but really like super like high fine-tuned shit, and Masvidal was getting out of it. And I feel like if Ben submits Masvidal, that really is a really big validating factor for him if he pulls that off. But I personally don't see that. I don't see him pulling off. But if he does, I'll give him all the credit in the world for it. It's not like a hating thing. It's just I think Jorge is too skilled for that. And if Ben wins, I do see it being one of those 3 rounds up against the fence kind of boring things. And because I don't see this being a fun, scrambly fight. It could be, but I don't know if Ben is. I think Ben might be too high level to allow it to be a scrambly fight. And what I mean by scrambly, if you guys like, if you now understand what I'm saying like, if you would, just off the top of my head, a Louis Smoka versus Tim Elliott. If you guys go back, watch that, if I remember it was a fun fight, but it was all grappling. But it was like super fucking fun. Or another fight that, my bad, I thought I saw some shit. Another fight that's like that is Josh Neer versus Nate Diaz. Shout out my guy MMA from the Heartland. When we had this conversation a while ago, he brought that fight to my attention again, and I was like, oh yeah. And then I watched it again, and I was like, that's just super fucking fun. So I mean, this does have potential to be that. Like, same way, if this is like a fun scrambly fight in that aspect, I will give Jorge like the same amount of credit that I would give Ben for submitting him, if you get what I mean by that. And if that made sense the way I worded it. But hold on. All right, I'm back. I got a call. So I feel like if Jorge can really get those reversals, those sweeps, transitions, get dominant positions in those ways, then it'll be fun, because I feel like that's one of the ways. All right, so there's going to be two ways, or there's gonna be multiple ways, but anyway, if Ben can, if Jorge could do that, then that it could be a fun fight in that way. But that's like a really really low percentage chance of that happening that way. Another way could be a fun fight is if Jorge can get off shots on the feet, if he could keep Ben away, if he could stuff the takedown consistently, and if he could start getting off combinations, establishing shots that prevent Ben from taking him down, you know what I mean? And another way it could be kind of fun, I guess, if like Ben just really does some like crazy shit, and well, obviously if he like lands a crazy knockout punch or some shit like that, but if he can really truly display how leaps and bounds, like if he's a specialist in his wrestling, in the sense of he's so leaps and bounds above people that are well versed in it, where to a decent high level, that he can just fucking like pick Jorge up, Daniel Cormier, fucking like flip him in the air, drop him, and then just lock in like a motherfucking like anaconda or some shit like that, or like a Japanese necktie or some like a fucking like windshield choke or some shit like that. Like it'd be crazy. But if like it's something where Ben's just really up against the fence, grinding, just trying to really just hold him to like until wear on him for a bit, hold him, just make sure like just slapping knees to his thigh so it doesn't get broken up, and just bro, he got the takedown. Now Jorge's on his ass, and Ben's just like holding him. Jorge's just blocking and blah. Like it has a potential to be a really boring fight if it plays out that way. But at the end of the day, that's essentially how Robbie Lawler versus Ben Askren was like predicted, like, or could be seen to be predicted to play out as. But the way it happened was like pretty wild, and it was pretty entertaining. So there's another chance of that, and like it could be like Ben Askren could be in those situations where he just gets into some wild shit, and that could kind of be his thing, and it just so happens to be that way. So it's left to be said and left to be played out, and I feel like I haven't really like, is this gonna be? Am I gonna make a pick on this? I should, right? You know what? I'm not going to make an official pick, because later on I'm going to do a whole official pick and prediction breakdown. I mean, not fucking breakdown. This is my breakdown. But so I'm going to do my official picks in a different video for the whole card. But this is just going to be the stylistic matchup breakdown. So I guess if that's the case, which it is the case, then this is where we wrap up. And yeah, so guys, let me know what you think down in the comments. And like the video, subscribe, and you already know it's Mastermind MMA.